Most welcome to HTV Africa. HTV is Humanist TV Africa, which is a virtual television, but also with physical studios in different countries in Africa, Europe, and the US. My name is Kato Mukasa. I'm a Ugandan lawyer interested in issues human rights. And today in the studio is Dennis Bongole. Of course, today the studio is Brian Kabeko. Brian Kabeko is based in Kenya. He's a Kenyan human rights activist, IT specialist, and the director at Human TV Africa. Now, if you want to write us, I want to encourage you to send us an email. Our email is htvafrica@proton.me. Brian is going to be displaying the email there. Our email is humanisttvafrica@proton.me. humanisttvafrica@proton.me. And of course, I want to encourage you to subscribe to our channel. Our channel is Humanist TV Africa. We want to request you to subscribe to it. YouTube channel is Humanist TV Africa. Our Facebook page is Humanist TV Africa. Remember, numbers matter. Numbers matter in the work we do. We want to thank you so much for those watching us and for those sharing our videos, liking and commenting. If you want to work with us, please send us an email. If you want us to host you in one of our programs, we want to encourage you to write to us an email. We are looking for professionals in all fields. You are a lawyer, you are a social worker, you are an engineer, you are a medical doctor, you are a social worker, you are a teacher, you are anything in life, and you want to share with us. You want to share with our audience. We are welcoming you here at Humanist TV Africa. Remember, we have studios in Uganda, we have studios in Kenya, we have studios in Nigeria, Zimbabwe, Zambia, United Kingdom, and the USA. We have studios in those countries, and we're opening up studios soon in other countries as soon as we identify people to be able and work with us in those studios. Now, today we're going to have a special conversation. I cannot call it an interview entirely. It's going to be a conversation with a young leader. His name is Isaac M. Supu, the student activist, student against corruption. He has an organization that's going to be telling us about it. And we shall be hearing from him, but also learning from what he does and then asking questions, because Africa is bedeviled by corruption. There's too much corruption, too much public funds missing here and there. And then we want young people to come over and fight this vice, fight this virus, fight this disease that is destroying many people in Africa, corruption. So today, our guest is Isaac. Isaac is with us in the studios. He's going to be talking about himself and telling us who is he and why does he do what he does. Dennis, give us the guest for today, and then we start off the program. Isaac, you are most welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I was sitting back and listening to your opening, and I must admit, I got also moved and inspired to learn that you are in different African countries like Uganda, Nigeria, and hoping to extend to other African countries, which is very much good, because if we are to achieve the Africa that we want, we are not to leave anyone behind. We have to move forward collectively. So my name is Agze M. Supu. I am from Liberia, West Africa. I'm an African. Currently based in Rwanda, where I studied human resource management at the University of Lay Adventist of Kigali in Iraq. For the past 3 years, I have been here in Rwanda, even though I have to sometimes go back home to do work in other African countries. But I basically have been in Rwanda. But that have not stopped us living from Liberia, my home country, coming to Rwanda. Have not stopped the struggle, have not stopped the dream to keep pushing to have a corrupt-free Africa. I am the vice president for international affairs for the Students Against Corruption. The Students Against Corruption is a anti-student organization in anti-corruption movement led by young people and students from across Africa with uh, basically activities rooted from Liberia. I remember a couple of years back in 2014, the Students Against Corruption was established. And because of the increasing number of corruption, the malpractices in secondary schools, this is something that prompted the formation of the Students Against Corruption. And it was this group, this idea was led by a student activist like myself, Daniel Dennis, who is the president of the Students Against Corruption. And I also bring a greeting from the executive board of the Students Against Corruption. So for the past year, I have been involved into anti-corruption fight. I'm a student activist and anti-corruption campaigner. I also a Pan-Africanist. I believe in the African Union agenda. I believe in a united Africa.
Wow, that's very impressive, Isaac. It's very, very impressive listening to you sharing with us. Of course, a young person talking about corruption. And it's very fascinating. First of all, you were a Liberian in Rwanda. That's interesting. Tell us, why did you choose Rwanda among all other countries? Why did you go to Rwanda from Liberia? And by
That is
the
a
way,
very
you
good
remember Rwandese.
yeah, so that's a great question. I'm not a Rwandese. I am a Liberian, and I first got the idea of traveling to Rwanda back in 2019. But this is how I narrowed down my process, my decision. I had a couple of options. I remember back then we had opportunity to with few other friends to go to Morocco, to go to India, China. But I said the thing is not just about traveling. When I'm leaving my home country to go to another country, I should have a specific reason. And this reason should be interest. It should also align with my goal, my long-term goal, that is fighting corruption. So I thought of researching on African countries. I thought of researching on countries all across the world. And I saw that Rwanda has a very unique story. It's unique such that it's also as compared to the story of Liberia. As you may be aware, in Liberia, we experienced a very difficult time. Back then, we have undergone a 14 years of civil war, which contributed to the underdevelopment of the country. It also contributed towards the corruption that we all face today. The 14 years of civil war that we experienced also it took lives, and because of this, as a country, we retrograded massively. Because of this, Liberia, that was trying to take one step towards fighting corruption, was also taken back. So when I read the story of Rwanda about how the honor go through activities relating to genocide, relating to fighting this civil crisis among themselves, and not only that, because for me, I love when I read challenges, I want to see how this country was able to remedy this situation. And the story of Rwanda inspired me a lot, that Rwanda was able to pull herself from that day to a country where people will look up to. And not only did that interest me, one thing that drew my attention was that I saw that Rwanda is one of the least corrupt country. So this is something that attracted me to come to Rwanda. So I was like, okay, so if I am an anti-corruption campaigner, I want to I want to see a corrupt-free Africa. I want to see a corrupt-free Liberia. So now Liberia and Rwanda, they have some common story. They have undergone a very difficult time. But Rwanda have already been able to make her way out of those challenges. Rwanda is now leading. Rwanda is now among the top three least corrupt country in Africa. So that beats my imagination. I say, I think there is something that I need to learn from Rwanda. because it's like we are brother and sister. Is that we have the same past, and you have already made your way out of that thing that we have all undergone. So if I, as an anti-corruption campaigner, if I am to learn something, that means that I have to learn from Rwanda. If Liberia as a country, if all of African countries that have also had this kind of past experience, very terrible past experience, and to put themselves to the country in Africa that we need, then also there's a story, there's a lesson that we need to learn from Rwanda. That also attracted me. And it was interesting to know that I was a junior student at the university I was, so I decided to drop the courses, the university to where I was studying, and to come to Rwanda to start afresh because I needed longer time. And for the past years, I've been here. When I came here first in 2020, my first engagement was to meet the Anti-Corruption Commission of Rwanda. So I reached out to them. Few colleagues of mine and I we reached out and we had a very great conversation. And I told them I was going to be here for the next 3 years, and I came here purposely to learn from Rwanda and to see how you have also pulled yourself in the fight against corruption, making the kind of headway.
Alex, thank you so much. We are losing you a bit. I cannot blame you. The issue is connection, the internet. We have been losing you a bit in a few seconds, then you come back. But I was getting much of what you said. Maybe I will ask you again to repeat a few things. I was hearing, but somehow I would lose you a bit. Now, what is very interesting about Rwanda is that, yes, Rwanda is known as a country that has done its best to fight corruption. In fact, as a Ugandan, I should tell you, don't admire to come to Uganda because we are doing we are doing badly in Uganda. Rwanda is a bit fair as a model. Now, my question is,
Um,
Isaac, can you hear me? Isaac?
yeah.
The network can be terrible. I'm in the UK personally, but I'm also facing surges in the internet. Now, Isaac, if you can hear me, don't know about the internet. It keeps on disturbing us when we are virtual. This kind of virtual station can be terrible. Now, Isaac, what I was saying is that I am a Ugandan who has gone to Rwanda several times, and I should tell you, Rwanda is a fair example of a country's fighting corruption. That's one thing. Now, you say that the NGO you work with, or the association, Students Against Corruption, was begun in 2014. Was it right?
Yes, that is very right. The Students Against Corruption was established in 2014 and officially accredited by the Liberian government in 2016 to 17.
And in which country was this?
In Liberia.
Oh, it was begun in Liberia.
In Liberia, yeah. So
wow.
It was funded by a group of students who felt that the issue of malpractices and corruption was becoming a serious problem that we cannot ignore. And like I said, that group was led, and this idea and formation was led by Mr. Daniel Dennis, who is the president currently of the Students Against Corruption. So the Students Against Corruption, yes, was founded in Liberia. Initially, we thought to extend to all subdivisions, all counties in Liberia. Now our dream is getting much more wider. We feel that the issue of corruption, it is not just a problem that is unique to Liberia. It is also a problem that is affecting all African countries. So we have thought that we should extend to every African countries. Now we are, maybe when we go further, I'm going to also show light on how we have been extending to other African countries and mobilizing forces across the continent.
Yes, Daniel. Isaac, I've heard you clearly. Now, it's fascinating. It's interesting to know that it was in Liberia. To me, that is very, very good thing to do. I think it was time of Johnson, Salif Johnson.
Yes, yes,
That
that
was the
was
time
the
when she was the president. You had a lady president in Liberia.
sure, sure. That was the time
Yes,
of President Eddie Johnson Sirleaf.
yes, because I remember the history very well, and I admire Liberia for the efforts you put in. Of course, as you said, many of, not even many, all countries in Africa are suffering one virus. Corruption is a very big, big challenge to many countries in Africa, though some countries are much better dealing with it and others are worse. Just like my country, Uganda, everything is gone to the dogs. There's too much corruption everywhere. Now, I want to ask you a question because we see corruption so much in public institutions. Because
Yeah,
corruption, by definition, is when you misuse a public office.
definitely.
By simple definition, you are misusing a public office. I was a student leader throughout up the university. In Uganda, we have an equivalent of what you call the Uganda National Student Association. It has all students in the country, and I was a leader in that association at the national level, at the district level. So, as a student leader, I've been there. I know what you guys go through. But in Uganda, interestingly, our association doesn't talk about corruption. It's all
It is
about
it is
leadership. Because the student leaders in Uganda, and I was part of the association, are sponsored by the sitting government. And the sitting government is the most corrupt. So these guys cannot come out and talk about corruption. That's why when I had your organization, Students Against Corruption, I was like, how do these guys do it? Because in my country, basically the association which would have helped students fight corruption is corrupt itself. Number two, is there corruption in schools? Can you explain to us? Is there corruption in schools? What are you fighting? What corruption are you talking about in schools? In
so yeah,
university?
yeah, thank you. We have a saying in our organization. Uh,
Mm.
the mother of our organization, someone that we most time run to, that is she's Abba Tantolo. She have made auto you get used to this saying. We always say it is easier to bend a tree while it is young. We know that by definition, corruption is a misuse of public funds. But our ideology is that every single person who is into public office, one way or another, must have passed through the wall of secondary school or maybe university. So we feel that why don't we fight corruption from the grassroots level? Because since we as young people may not have the political will, because to fight corruption it requires the political will. So we have seen that people who are in national government, in public offices, do not have the political will, they do not have the integrity to stand. So why can't we start to sensitize ourselves and our fellow young people so that if for any reason any of us have the chance to get into public office, this message can be something that will beat our imagination, that will be that people will look up to us, that you are standing against corruption, so that it will serve as a guide to us. So yes, to answer your question, corruption is in secondary school, and this is where one of the main places that we think that corruption starts. And this is what in schools, this is one of the places that we think corruption should also be fought, because you have people coming from different backgrounds, from different communities, from different religious background, from different cultural background. We all meet in school. So we think that school should not just be maybe more about going to get the theories of the lesson and thing, but there we should also impact something that we believe when you go at home, you can also be able to transfer to other people. So corruption is, we have experienced corruption in school across Africa, in Liberia. We have one of our main focuses that we put more effort to is the issue of bribery in school. That is one main type of corruption that we as a student we stand against. So, and that is uh, a point. That is one of the factors that we were funded. That is one of the reasons that push us to have been funded. Bribery in school. Teachers collect bribery. It goes both ways. So we believe that this form of corruption also escalate to the national level. It contribute to the corruption that we see in public office. So corruption in schools is something that is contributing towards the corruption in national office. You will observe that in schools, secondary school, basically across the continent, you have teachers who go to school, who go into the teaching college, into the teaching career with a mindset of going to get what is not exactly in the teaching career. You go there, give lesson, after examination, they collect lot of money from students. And because of this, it makes students to feel reluctant. We believe our next generation feel that it is more easier now to get grade. Because of this, they do not a lot of us do not go to study because we feel like after examination, we will have 10 or 15 or 20 or $50 to give to a teacher to give us passing mark. And after we have gotten the passing mark, we cannot defend what we have gotten in the public. This affects our nation. They affect our continent because we do not have, this make us now we do not have the intellectual class again anymore to defend the continent. We do not have that intellectual class to stand up. Yes, this is what Africa want because we all are to certain extent involved in the art of corruption. Not only that, another form of corruption that we have been also speaking up against hugely is transitional sex. Most time it is not talking about, but our females are used as a tool for people to satisfy their sexual needs. Sometimes they do not have more education on how this affect them because they just look at the short term benefit that is to get the grades and stand out. But most time in Africa, we complain about unemployment, but we do not complain about how we offer lecturer sex. Most time we complain about unemployment, we complain that there's no job opportunity, but we as students also, we do not complain that we also give lecturers or teachers money to give us mark. And this is something that we have put. These are things that we have included within our fight. And this is the basis of which we were funded to first make sure that we can fight corruption in school because we are students. So when we fight corruption among ourselves, if we sensitize our fellow colleagues and we sensitize ourselves, we will definitely we will have now the ability, we now have the face to stand up and engage public officials. But we cannot every day engage public officials to call on them when we ourselves are also getting involved. So this is why we believe that when we sensitize ourselves, when we make sure that we are winning the fight against corruption in the education sector among we students, because it may interest you to know that even though that the enrollment in secondary school and university in Liberia in Africa is not on the increase, it's low, but yet still Africa is a youthful population. Africa has a youthful population. Also, huge percentage of this population, huge percentage of the youth in Africa are also students. So if we fight corruption within the education sector, if we let students to take the lead, to start to lead the fight against corruption, I believe there will be some changes affected in a national level. So, like you said, there are several corruption within the schools, the universities, the high school, the education sectors. Like I just named some: bribery, transitional sex, and a whole lot on that are ongoing on there.
Yes, Isaac, that's quite impressive. I'm going to share with you something I learned from my observation, and I want to commend you before even I say it, because what you are doing is what should be done in all universities in the world, not
Yeah,
only in Africa, but in the world, because it's from the university that we give the world the workforce.
definitely. Yeah,
At the same time, the products that come out of the universities corrupt, are corrupted. And I like the analogy I used, the imagery I used, the symbolism I used, name it, of a tree. If you are going to turn and bend a tree to a direction you want, you can only do it when the tree is still young.
sure.
The moment a tree grows up and is about 5 years, there's nothing you can do with it. That is how corruption can be tamed. I think you're doing something good. Let me give you examples. In Uganda, corruption starts in baby class, in nursery school. How does it start from there? Sometimes, as parents, bribe schools to admit our students, to
Yeah,
admit our children, because school X is the best now, and my child didn't get the right marks. I have to pay some money. Our
yeah,
parents corrupt public officials, including those in private schools, to admit their students in those schools. That is corruption. Now, talk about campaigns in schools. It starts from primary level that students must make posters. One day, my daughter came to me and wanted to make posters, and I did make her posters because she wanted to contest for a certain position in a school. But then she came and told me, Daddy, I want some sweets because my voters are going to ask for something to eat. I told her, no, the posters are enough. She cried. She said, everyone is giving out sweets. If I don't
yeah,
give them sweets, they will not vote for me. I told her, look, I'm not giving you money for sweets, but I'm going to make the posters because your face is important. So I made her posts. I made her posters. I never gave her money for sweets. It was 1 month away to end of March. That is 2021, if I remember very well. But in that very month, the election never happened because of COVID. The schools were closed. But my daughter had made posters. In fact, Dennis, one of our colleagues here, had helped me to design the posters. I went to Nassau Road. I printed out posters for my daughter. She went to her school. She pinned them up. They were very good posters. But I refused to give her money to go and bribe the voters in terms of giving sweets. Yet all her competitors were already giving out sweets and goodies. Now, what are we teaching the students? Why should schools be allowing students to bribe voters? You see, and the schools don't mind about this. After all, the schools admit students through corruption. That's one thing. Number two, in the schools at the secondary school level, primary school level, teachers sleep with students. It's also common. That's another form of corruption, which is seen in schools where you are using your public office to get a service out of sex. At the university level, what's happening? There's what we call sex for marks. You have talked
yeah,
about it. It is common in Uganda. You have talked about it. I'm surprised it's common almost everywhere, where lecturers sleep with students, in other words, have sex and then give them marks. It is very bad practice. Now, look at secondary schools in Uganda. I talk about Uganda, which I know,
yeah,
where teachers connive with government examination officers and give them exams in advance, or leave the hall where they're invigilating and students copy at will. Now, if a school is going to help a student cheat exams and get a first grade, then this school is promoting corruption. So yes, in a brief, I'm agreeing with you. There's corruption in schools and it must be tackled. Now, I'm asking you again, what have you done to combat corruption in your schools in Rwanda and Liberia?
So thank you. What we do, let me start with the programs that our pillar programs that we normally do across Liberia and in Africa. Uh, our strategy is we establish anti-corruption clubs in schools. We focus in secondary schools. So when we go to establish anti-corruption or integrity clubs, we train the students within the school. We mobilize, like there's a target school, we mobilize, train the students. And in Liberia, we get that training. We get the help from the Liberia Anti-Corruption Commission that we call other anti-graft institution or other anti-corruption experts to come and train. We ourselves form part of training most time. So, and those anti-corruption clubs, we have those people who are being trained, as we call them, integrity ambassador, anti-corruption ambassadors. We use them. They serve as our major point of focus people in the school who are there to get involved with whistleblowing and be able to report cases of corruption. So in 2017, we were able to establish anti-corruption clubs in 25 schools, secondary schools across 5 counties in Liberia, and we are hoping to extend to all of the other counties. So we have established 25 anti-corruption clubs in the 25 schools in 5 counties in Liberia. We got the support from the past administration in Liberia, like you mentioned, Madam Eddie Johnson Sirleaf. So the Students Against Corruption was opportune to have gotten not the recommendation. We had a fund from the United Nations mission in Liberia, but then because that was our first grant, it was a quick impact project to establish anti-corruption clubs in those schools. And in that same year, we also had the opportunity to have a radio program on the state radio, on the national radio and television in Liberia. We used to call that program Integrity Hour. It was hosted by the president, Daniel Dennis. So because the state radio is basically reaching to all counties in Liberia. So when we use the state radio, that we are definitely communicating the anti-corruption message to all counties in Liberia. Where we have not even reached, we use the radio to reach them. So our Integrity Hour was the only on-air student anti-corruption or integrity program in Liberia. Unfortunately, it was taken down. So for now, we don't have Integrity Hour on the radio again. So besides that, in last year, 2022, the Students Against Corruption was able to uncover a major, like what we were talking about, like a sex for grace, a bribery. We were able to uncover a major corruption or transactional sex involving administration, the administrators, teachers, using their offices to abuse students in a school in central Liberia. And that was a very huge fight because most time corruption tends to fight back. When you report, the corrupt will always come after. So we were able to uncover that story, and we as an anti-corruption institution, we are a whistleblower. We are not in the court, but we make sure that we uncover the story and report it to the institution, that the necessary institution to do investigation. And also, when the system is also corrupt, sometimes we fight, we take the case from there, take it to maybe the justice ministry, the police, and these people will also use their influence and their money to get the case off and get it in their favor. But we are not deterred. That's why we keep engaging, we keep making sure that the institution keep moving forward. So these are some of the things that we have done, and some of these things that we have also done is that we have trained about 1,000 young people in Liberia as anti-corruption ambassadors. Every year, we recruit young people from Liberia, train them as anti-corruption ambassadors. These people help us because we, as just Student Against Corruption, we feel that this is far way more bigger fight. We need to include everybody. So these young people join us to increase the awareness, create awareness, and increase the voice, increase the message, take the message to their various communities in their various schools. So this year, like now, the anti-corruption ambassador that were trained, now they are termed because they serve for 1 year. So now we are in the process of recruiting new anti-corruption ambassador. On our social media page is there now. The Student Against Corruption just had a training, anti-corruption training in Tuazon in Liberia for the newly recruited anti-corruption ambassador. On the 30th of this month, we are also going to have training for the anti-corruption ambassador that have been recruited. So they are basically going to be serving as anti-corruption ambassador for the next 1 year. So every year we train new set of people to show to them that this fight is not just about us, it's also about young people. And across Liberia, let's say out of Liberia, we have established the anti-corruption and leadership school of Africa. It is an initiative of the Students Against Corruption because we feel that we do not have the funding, we do not have the support to extend to all African countries at this moment. So what we do is that we move out, we use the social media to train young people from different countries and also allow them to be anti-corruption ambassador in their countries. So last year we trained about 15 young people from Zambia. Now we have chapters in Zambia headed by Emmanuel in Chipata. He is there as our country representative in Zambia. Also in Sierra Leone, there's a Student Against Corruption there. So these young people are spread out across different African countries: Nigeria, Namibia, Zambia. We do not have official chapters in some of these countries, but we have trained integrity anti-corruption ambassadors there, people who are there championing the message on our behalf. So not only that, in Liberia, with funding from the United Nations mission in Liberia, we were able to, the Students Against Corruption have information bulletin. The Students Against Corruption established an information bulletin across schools. So what we use these information bulletins for is to make sure that we can publish some issues of malpractices going on in schools, going on in different part of the countries, so that students, because as you may be aware, access to information is very important in the fight against corruption. So our information bulletins that we have across, the one that we use to send information to students in the various places. So there are several things that we do. We also collaborate with different organizations to do different initiatives that is in line with our vision and our mission. One of our strongest partner, Mr. Ashton Jabba, who is the head of Agriculture Liberia in the Ashton Jabba Foundation, supports the establishment of anti-corruption chapters in every single every single county in Liberia every year. So these are activities in the midst of the COVID-19. We were not able to go out. So what we did was we make use of the social media, we make use of Zoom and the internet to have a COVID-19 conversation on the corruption, the effect of corruption among young people while we were home. We were still talking about corruption. And every year we have we celebrate the International Anti-Corruption Day and also the African Union Anti-Corruption Day. So because the International Anti-Corruption Day is celebrated in December of every year, we also organize the Anti-Corruption Conference for young people. In 2020, we had the Youth Anti-Corruption and Integrity Conference in Monrovia, Liberia. We brought together 80 young people from different civil society organizations. This is our strategy, one of our strategies. At that conference, we do not just bring anybody that within the community. We bring leaders, students, young people who are heading different organizations, because we believe that it is not just the responsibility alone of Students Against Corruption to fight corruption. Other civil society organizations that are not anti-corruption organizations also have the responsibility to fight corruption. Even if you are focused in education, even if you are an agriculture-based institution, even if you are maybe involved into technology or different sector, you still have a role. So we bring these young people from different civil society organizations in December of 2020, and we had this conversation about the fight against corruption. It went very well. So this year, in celebration of the International Anti-Corruption Day, we also had the African Youth Anti-Corruption Summit here in Kigali, Rwanda. Here we were able to have a representative of 10 countries. In Rwanda, you have students from different countries studying in Rwanda. So since this was a one-day summit, so we brought together representatives from these countries who are already in Rwanda, so that we can instruct the knowledge that you are out of your country to study in Rwanda. What are you taking? Are you also aware that Rwanda is leading the fight against corruption in Africa? Because as a student who come to study, you have time, and that time is definitely going to elapse. And you have to go back to your country. Are you going back to with only degree, or will you go back and tell them what you have seen in Rwanda? Because you have the opportunity to have a first-hand experience on what Rwanda have been. Rwanda may not be the best. We're using Rwanda as case study not because Rwanda is the best country in Africa, but we just feel that because this is our field, this the fight against corruption. Rwanda is just is progressing. Let me put it this way: it's progressing in the fight against corruption. So on the 6th of December of this year, we had the African Youth Anti-Corruption Summit. And every year we also honor and award one outstanding young African who is also playing a key role. We do this to motivate other young people to live to be integrity manner. Because if we have a young person who is trying very hard to support or to work towards achieving the goal that we are achieving, we also call that young person out and be able to spotlight them. In last year, doing our anti-corruption road trip, we had a leadership and anti-corruption road trip in Liberia, where we took anti-corruption ambassador from Monrovia. Because let me say this, in our organization, we always say that Monrovia is not Liberia, because sometimes most civil society organizations and government focus only in the capital city. So for us, we feel that Monrovia is not just Liberia. Kigali is not just Rwanda. Kampala is not just Uganda. Nairobi is not Kenya. There are people in the rural places who are experiencing this issue. They are affected by corruption, by the issue of corruption. So the integrity ambassadors were able to go for a road trip, and a young person was awarded one Congo Boka Koli, who is an investigative journalist who was also very, very key, strong factor in helping to uncover some corrupt practices within the central region, was also called out in awarded. This year, we were able to also recognize one young person, Mr. Johnson Kanu, who served as chairman for Liberian community in Rwanda and play a very key role in serve with transparency, honesty, and accountability. So these are some of the things that we have done, and these are things that we definitely are doing. And every year we have different programs. It will interest you to know that most all of these programs, most of it are funded by ourselves, are funded by the students. We do not have a fake donor. We do not have somewhere where we can run to like an annual budget. We sit and craft our idea, and we reach out to the young people, and basically the work is supported by the members of the organization.
Wow, I was listening to you, I think, for about 15 minutes. I've been listening to you carefully, and I have to say, I'm very impressed by Students Against Corruption, and I do think this is the NGOs we need in Africa. These are the kind of people we need in Africa. When I say Africa has hope, I mean people like you, Isaac. This is the hope for Africa. Instead of us always lamenting on the screen, in the newspapers, talking about Africa in a bad way, we should talk about Africa in a good way. Now, you are part of these ambassadors because fighting corruption is a necessity, the entire world. I should say to you, Isaac, that almost everywhere in the world there is corruption, but the
Sure.
degree of corruption differs. In some countries, it's worse. In Africa, it is hitting us worse. So when I see you guys campaigning against corruption among young people, I am excited. But I'm also very happy that you are not relying on foreign donations. You are also not relying on government donations. The moment you start asking money from politicians, forget about fighting corruption. That's number one thing. I should tell you, as a man who has been part of leadership in Uganda, especially part of student leaders, because what has killed Uganda's National Student Association, where I was a member and a leader, is the government of Uganda and one party called NRM, which basically comes and even sponsors candidates in UNSA, as we call it. That the ruling party comes and sponsors candidates to lead students. Now, the moment we have politics in student leadership, then there's no way you can fight corruption. And this one has destroyed my country. Now, I want to encourage you, Isaac, to follow this example, because when I was leading in Uganda among the students, our part of our funding will come from membership. I don't know whether I do that. That every student, if there's a way you could make the schools, I don't know whether I do it, but I need to share with you my experience. If the schools could charge every student, even if it was £1, even if it was £2, charge it from every student, not from the school, not from the parents, not from the government, but from the students. And then this £1, £2, £5 goes to Students Against Corruption. I can tell you we would reach a very big milestone. Now, that's a suggestion. Now, going forward, Isaac, I've listened to you. It's very impressive. I'm curious, how do you open up chapters in these countries? And number two, why don't you have chapters in Uganda? Did Museveni chase you from Uganda?
No, not yet. So let me start with the last question. Why we have now established chapter in Uganda? We have been talking to a couple of friends, couple of people. Basically, we love for people to reach out. We love because this is a voluntary work. Students Against Corruption do not have the funding to send to anyone to start. So that means we set the structure in a way such that if you are leading a chapter, that means that you have to make it like you are forming an organization. This is your own. So we have been in touch. In last year, we decided to extend to 5 African countries. That was Kenya, Uganda was on the list. Kenya, Uganda, Namibia, Zambia, and that of Sierra Leone. But we started with one person. We tried to reach out to have someone who we would be interested, and then we can definitely direct that person to be able to establish the country chapter. So unfortunately uh for Tanzania, okay, sorry, I did not include Tanzania. Tanzania was included. So unfortunately for us, we were not able to have the force that we needed from Uganda, from the colleague that we got in touch with based on a busy schedule and different activities, and also for Kenya. In Kenya, we there's youth organization that already been trying to do something towards this. So we thought that maybe when we work with them, it's going to work. So we started and I visited Kenya in last year October, and we had a lengthy conversation. But then this is young people thing after war when there is no funding. Sometimes it becomes more slow. It seemed with Tanzania. I visited Tanzania last year to attend the International Anti-Corruption Conference, and we during the conference, the institution is Wajibu, who was organizing the event, called acknowledge the effort of Students Against Corruption, and they used the opportunity to call on young people from Tanzania that were attending that event. Because from there, at that event, we took upon our time, we as Students Against Corruption members, we went there, pay our transport ourselves, launched ourselves, fed ourselves, just to attend the International Anti-Corruption Summit. So they were surprised, they were shocked. That's how the organizer intended to ask other young people to join force. And we had meetings. We had meetings with different young people from different part of the country in Tanzania. And unfortunately, we have not actively started any work there yet. Conversation is still ongoing, but I think it's just more slower than we expect. But for Zambia, it was successful. We got in touch with the right person in Zambia. We got in touch with Transparency International, country representative in Zambia, and they told us that they are open to us, but they cannot establish our chapter for us, which is very right. We have to establish our own chapters. So we managed to establish the chapters, and the leadership there organized a training. We had a 1 day online training for the members. So we have a chapter there in Zambia. Uh, Early 2024, we are also intending to make it more active so that we can start having activities across the country in Zambia. But our major issue have always been when we establish this chapter, the sustainability is always the problem. We let me say this: we have this idea, we have this dream, so we need people who can grab it and run with it. So, but we don't. It becomes more difficult when uh is something is expected from us. Like we do not have the support or the funding for me to fly from here to go to Ethiopia to go and establish chapter and come back to Rwanda and continue study and leave and go to Ghana and come back and continue study. We just need a committed people. So the reason why we have not been established in Uganda yet, like I initially stated, is because like the case of Kenya, we got in touch, and the person who needed to have done the work was not ready in that position
Okay,
at the
I'll stop you there
moment.
briefly
Yeah.
because we are running short of time, but I'm going to give you a piece of advice. Again,
Okay.
number one, my country, Uganda, is one of the most corrupt countries in the world, with the most corrupt leadership in the world. So they won't give you a free ride to talk about corruption. Number two, in Uganda, there is an association called, actually, there is a coalition. I want you to go and Google it. It's called the Anti-Corruption Coalition in Uganda. Anti-Corruption Coalition in Uganda. It's led by two lawyers and, of course, other founders. It's a very strong coalition against corruption in Uganda. Now, if you reach out a coalition, they are more likely to hear what you say and listen to you because that's their kind of role. In fact, they'll be happy, in my view, to work with you to help you identify student leaders because you cannot be in Uganda, you cannot be in Kenya, you cannot be in Tanzania. You need to have ambassadors, as we are saying. Now, my advice is that you identify anti-corruption coalitions in a country. For example, Amnesty International may be good, but Transparency International is the best, as we have even said. If you can only get people at Transparency International and corruption coalitions, say in Uganda and these other countries, take them, tell them what you want to do, but also look for student leaders. For example, those in Uganda National Students Association. Why? When you say them the idea, because they already have structures, they are more likely to listen and then work with you as partners and establish their own chapters. Because what you want is to have young people that are taking your message forward. This is not your message alone. I'm happy because you are simply planting a seed, others can germinate it. So my advice is identify organizations with the same vision as yours: Transparency International, Red Cross, anti-corruption coalitions, and then student bodies. Then identify leaders that can listen to you. You are going to move forward. Now, lastly, when you talk about Africa, there are countries which I'm proud of. Though they may be having dictatorships, bad regimes here and there, but when it comes to corruption, they are fighting it. Rwanda is the best example, one of the best examples in Africa of countries that fight corruption is Rwanda. In Rwanda, I've been there. I know I've seen how smart Kigali is. There are special days in Rwanda when I was there. There are special days when people go and clean streets. I think it's called Omubano, something like that.
Yeah.
I was in Rwanda. I know Rwanda, I know what they do. So there's that Omubano something there where they go, and even the president is involved in cleaning the streets. You cannot simply throw away stuff. Rwanda is very organized. Number two, countries like Tanzania is a good model, by the way.
Yeah.
In terms of fighting corruption, Tanzania is a good model. Look at countries like Botswana is trying. Look at countries like Madagascar. I mean, we need to look at the best examples in Africa and then benchmark along those countries. Now, finally, my friend Isaac, as we conclude, I want you to make a plea. And first of all, how do you want us to help you as Humanist TV Africa, but also how would you like the world? Viewers are going to see you. We are going to share this interview with so many people. How do you want them to help you? And lastly, how can they reach you? You have an email, you have a website. Please share with us how you want us to help you and how people can reach you.
So thank you very much. We are very much glad. The Students Against Corruption, we have presence in on several social medias. We have a website. It's called sacintl.org. So we everything about us, our project, different activities, leadership,
I'm
everything
going
is.
to listen, I'm going to talk, and then in the terms I'm going to talk in 1 or 2 minutes, I want to request you to type that website and email and send it to the producer. We didn't do this before, but do it now as I talk a bit. Type it in the messages, we'll send it to WhatsApp. Brian is going to get you there now. Talking about corruption as you do that, I'm very, very impressed by Students Against Corruption. And I want Brian to capture your email and then you put it here, your email, your website, so that people can be able to donate. I want to encourage people of goodwill to donate to these young people, NGOs. We need to fight corruption in schools in Uganda. It starts from there. The moment we have upright citizens coming out of our schools, we shall be having upright leaders, as politicians, as government workers, as civil servants. It starts from schools. We need to support people like Isaac here, young people that are talking about corruption, and support them so that they can give us better leaders for tomorrow. Africa needs a corrupt-free zone. And there is no way we can achieve that when the students are corrupt, because it's from the students that we get tomorrow's leaders, tomorrow's parents, tomorrow's politicians, tomorrow's civil servants. They all start as students. If they are cheating exams, if they are bribing their way to universities, there's no way we're going to have a perfect world tomorrow. So I want to encourage everyone to please consider sponsoring the activities of Isaac Supu and his other colleagues in the battle to fight corruption. Isaac, if you're done, let us continue.
Yeah, so I'm done. As I've sent the website. The website is SAC. You know, it's Students Against Corruption. It says SAC. We call it SAC. That is organization SAC. XAC RNTL. That is SACinternational.org. So SAC International org. SACINTL.org. That is our website. And the email we have support at sac.rntl.org. That is the email that we can be reached out. And also we are present on Facebook. Most of our activities. Let me say this. When we started as an institution, we did not have email. We did not have a website. We did not have any official social media handle, unlike for Facebook. And it was through Facebook that we reached the Liberia Anti-Corruption Commission, the commissioner on education and provision. By then, she was the one who reached out. She reached out to her. It was through Facebook. So our Facebook channel is the ODS. So we have more information on the Facebook channel because we have not been having a website before. It was last 2021. We got help from an individual who helped us to build a website for us, and we are also very grateful for that. But probably on the support base, we intend to reach out to all African countries. We intend to reach out to several African countries. But how do we reach there? How do we young people take on this initiative to reach there, to reach our fellow young people? Sometimes we want to host events. We have the ability, we have the strength to sit here and organize anti-corruption activity, anti-corruption event in Uganda, in Ghana. But most time when we reach out, we don't have the funding for any venue. People don't want to, they don't give up any. We don't have the funding for maybe even to get water for people, participants who will come around. Like recent time when we just had a African Youth Anti-Corruption Summit, we had to reach out until it was late day. We managed to reach out to Office of Ombudsman. We pleaded with them and they helped us with some 10 cartons of water to bring. Imagine in that event there was no food, but we had people who still committed themselves to come, to just sit and learn and drink water and go. So this is our story. We are passionate. We want to reach out to more people. We want to reach out to more schools. Our major activity is to establish anti-corruption clubs in schools. But establishing these anti-corruption clubs sometimes require us a lot to transport ourselves here. We do not have that means. We do not have the funding. We do not have a fixed donor from our outstanding friend and supporter from 2014 is one Mr. Armstrong Jabba, who we also met. The president of SAC also met through social media, Facebook. And since then, Mr. Armstrong Jabba has also, and a single individual cannot do all of this. And like you said, we do not want to go to government, pleading on government to give us this support because we will soon be bought. We feel that if a private citizen, civil society organization, international organization, we can work alone because our next target is to make sure to hold government feet accountable, to make sure we can create immense awareness across the entire continent to call on every government to make sure to do the right thing. We have the African Union Advisory Board on anti-corruption. We have had several meetings with them, but we still do not receive the kind of support that we always wish out to receive. So, like now, as an institution, in Liberia, we have our head office in Liberia, in Dwazon, where we have our activities ongoing. In the other African countries, we now have a fixed structure offices, but we have our chapters. Like young people, we run mobile office, so they all move around. Just make sure that we keep the activities going. But here is the fact: we when each time we want to raise out, we want to alarm on situation in schools, in government, in everywhere. We are always override people with strong political will, people with contact reach out. And when you report this case, this person come out and say they have contact with this person, they have contact with the justice system. So not only that we need financial support, but we also need mentorship. Because we are young. We also need mentorship. We need guardians. We need people who are also passionate, who have passed our age, but I have experience in this that we can reach out to, because some days it gets tough on us. Like we initiating this kind of advocacy, and at the same time, let me give this short scenario. The president of the organization, when we heard that instance in central Liberia, uh, he couldn't sleep at his own house. For me, back then I was already in Rwanda. He had to push the vice president for national affairs by that time to leave. He had to go to the neighboring border and neighboring country to hang there until he can have his people to come to Rwanda also to stay. So the president was forced to leave his house. Sometimes we just need protection. We just need these guardians. We need people that we can talk to on how legal people, how we can take these cases. So that's one thing that we need. Because if we have the legal direction, then we can take up these cases. Even if the justice system want to play, then we know who to reach out to and give them everything to make sure that we can take these things through the justice system. Because if what the experience that we hear, that an individual who will molest a child and go to use the police, then the police come, we who raise the alarm, then the police come to caution us, to come and make us look that we are the one committing the crime when we are the one alarming on the situation. So these legal guardians, these procedures that we need as young people, we also need people. I know that the financial contribution and donation, they are also key, they are important, but this is also important to us. Need mentorship, guardians. We have few people, like I mentioned, Mistress Dodo, who we also always reach out to. We are like Mr. Jabba, like these people who guide us, who maybe lead us to some of this direction. But we need people all across the continent, because we are now
Okay,
planning to reach across the continent.
I'm going to
And
stop you there. We have passed our time. We have
yes,
passed our
sorry.
time.
Yeah,
We-
I want to make this announcement. We want to establish a platform that we use, young people can use to report corruption. So we are looking to working with technology RT institution, people who are expert in technology, people or also donors who can help us to fund this initiative. We want to have a platform where people from all across can come on, take their phone or mobile phone, internet or computer, just anonymous, and report some cases of corruption. We can set up this. This will also help us to be able to report, make annual report, and be able to track the issue of corruption across. I know this conversation is very long, but I really appreciate it. Thank you very
Now,
much.
Isaac, I'm going to have you back. One thing I have to tell you is that Humanist TV Africa is very proud of what you are doing. And if you ask me how we are going to help you, we are going to help you, number one, by giving you publicity. You don't need to pay us anything. You just need to have your phone charged with data. And we shall always give you publicity. You come here and talk about issues, students against corruption. So that is our number one contribution. Number two, we are going to give you mentorship, which you are asking for, because most of my team leaders members have been leaders and actually have experienced all that. Some of us are beyond 40. So we know what has been happening in those years you are in, but also we shall give you connections. The best thing I can give you is to give you connections in different countries if you are willing to take them, and then talk with those individuals who can help mentor your people in those countries. I have connections in several countries, I should say, right on this TV, which I can pass over to you, and for one purpose, mentorship, because you need it. I was mentored, I was lucky. I went into hands of strong people. Nigerians had a saying, I think that was Chinua Achebe, that you stand on the shoulders of great men. I was lucky. I stood on the shoulders of great men who molded me as a leader, as a politician, as an activist. Now, this is one thing I want to pass on to people like you, because tomorrow we are the presidents of Africa, we are the ministers, and I don't want you to stop there. We want a people that are going to make Africa proud. We are tired of having a crop of leaders that are doomed, because a leader who stole exams as a student leader is going to be a corrupt government official automatically. He won't have any shyness, any shame, because he has done it before. So our emphasis as Humanist TV Africa is modeling young people into becoming responsible citizens. We are going to support you. And once you are ready for another program, contact us. Even if it's January, we shall give you more and more programs, but also we are going to help the association bring more faces on this TV. If we have contacts in Liberia, we shall host them here. Talk about students against corruption in Liberia. We talked about Zambia, we shall host them here. So what we are going to do as a TV is publicize your activities in Africa. And then with time, you do think that we will get people's attention. And then the organization will grow and grow and grow. We want to thank you so much for the good work we're doing. Of course, as I said, we are going to host you back in January. We shall talk inbox, and then we shall have a roadmap. So what do we do next in the next talk? Thank you so much, Isaac, for making the time. Of course, as I said, remind me, in the second week of January, we shall have you back. Of course, I want to thank so much Brian Kabeko in Nairobi, Kenya, who has been the producer of the show, and of course, Dennis Bongole, who did the first work on the show. I want to thank you so much, everyone who was watching, and please subscribe on our YouTube channel, and please share this story, share this interview, share this show with all your colleagues. The email is right there. The handle you are having is Humanist TV Africa. We shall be able to keep spreading the good news from Africa. People like Isaac Supu are the guys we are going to support, because this is the future for Africa. Write us at Humanist TV Africa at proton.me. See you in the next one. Bye-bye, Isaac.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.